Where's the worst place you've thrown up? I got bona fide food poisoning once. It comes upon you so suddenly that you don't even have the time to finish the thought, I'm gonna puke, before you start turning yourself inside out. I was sitting on my couch and right as my dog came up for some ear rubs I let go and puked all over him. It was like The Exorcist. He was covered in it. I'll never forget his poor little face as he stared up at me, blinking puke out of his eyes like, why you do this? In retrospect, my worst was also my best. I was in class, 6th grade. I had eaten a very undercooked steak the night before, and the food poisoning was just hitting me. I told the teacher twice I wasn't feeling well. Can I go to the nurse or bathroom? She said no. The third time, she was in the middle of her lecture, I raised my hand and walked over to her in tears and whispered if I could go, and she once again said no. My stomach instantly said, fuck that noise, and spewed last night's dinner all over her shoes in front of the entire class. Then she let me go. Was at a party, didn't wanna be that person, and vom on the floor. So I tucked my shirt into my pants and just kinda let it all out. I looked pregnant with puke. I am still not okay with my choice LMAO. I was on a flight for a memorial after a plane crash at my squadron. Everyone was depressed and drinking. The flight crew on the commercial plane we took made it free open bar, so we went nuts and cleared out the plane. I was right next to the galley on board, so I was just pounding drinks and getting refills constantly. Suddenly I needed to throw up, but I didn't even think of the bags behind the seats and grabbed a Gatorade bottle and tried to throw up into it. It filled up in half a second and then I just pressure puked into the filled bottle and the rest of it just spewed out in all directions. It covered the empty chair next to me, the chair in front of me, and of course, all over myself. Good times, edit, my first silver. Didn't expect that today. While driving my car on a busy freeway going about 70 miles per hour. I'd neglected to take my new medication with food, as recommended. It was terrifying. And messy. I threw up in my dentist's face. He shoved way too much garbage in my mouth all at once and one the things started oozing something gross down my throat. So yeah, projectile vomit in his face. On the sidewalk in New Orleans, I know, pretty cliché, right? But here's the thing. It was mid-afternoon, I hadn't had a drop to drink, though I wasn't sick either, and I wasn't even in the French Quarter. I was on my way to visit a buddy in the Tremé and all of a sudden I just had to retch. I was walking past a Black Baptist church and I had just the wherewithal to think, I have to make it all the way past this church before oh no darn it, and, lobster, so here's this white kid with sweaty hair in his eyes and some splash on his sneakers trying to collect himself as the doors of the church are thrown wide and a lovely wedding party, dressed to the nines with the big hats and all, emerge with joyous organ music trailing them. I basically could never show my face in the Tremé again. On my girlfriend's meow as a teenager the first time we were trying mouth stuff on each other. I was at a party of a girl I liked, and #X200B, well, I tried to run outside and pull a puke and rally, but didn't quite make it. I puked through her screen porch door. Screen doors are impossible to clean, needless to say, I didn't seal the deal with her. I'm a polite vomiter and only do so in hospitals or at my home. I did, however, start a chain reaction of vomiting one time when I was in the hospital. I was both mortified and proud. As a kid I had a stomach problem which caused me to throw up a lot. I eventually ended up sleeping through it. That's right. I threw up in my sleep and continued to sleep in it. Did I mention already that I had long hair? Few years ago, on a New Year's Eve, me and my mates rented a room at one of the nicest hotels in the city. Two of the boys were about to become fathers and one was engaged, so it was like our last hurrah as gang. The room had 2 keys, the guy whose name the hotel was in had one, another friend, let's call him Joey, had another. We got wasted, we all got separated, I stumbled back to the hotel after finding a hot dog stand on the way, ordering a dog with the lot. The hotel's sliding doors are locked. I explained that I'm staying in a room, but I don't have a key. After much deliberation they let me in. They say I'm welcome to stay in the lobby, but they have to lock the sliding door as there were so many drunks. About 10 minutes later another one of the boys, let's call him Mickey, came to the door. Same deal as me, no key, he can wait in the lobby. We are in the lobby trying to call one of the boys with a key. We are there for a whole hour waiting, nothing. Then I feel a rumbling in my stomach. I run for the sliding doors, I'm hitting the emergency button screaming to reception to open the door, but it's too late. I throw up directly onto the sliding door. It's real chunky too, there's bits of onion and bacon sliding down the door. I apologize and say I will clean it, but the hotel staff are real cool about it, tell me it's okay. I go to sit back down and ask Mickey if he's got anything to wipe my mouth with. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a room key. He's looking at it in a drunken stupor before saying, "Oh yeah, Joey said he was going home with a girl and gave me the key, TLDR, all over the sliding doors of one of the fanciest hotels in the city. I've got a few front runners. I only ever got seasick once while I was in the Navy. I yacked in a trash bag in the engine room of the sub I was on while I was on watch. What sucked the most about seasick puking is that you don't generally feel better afterward like normal hawking, a planter somewhere in Foxwoods Casino. Buddy of mine and I went for some day drinking and gambling. I overdid it and hurled. On my way to work, I had a cough that brought a friend along and I blew chunks on my dashboard, steering wheel, and my shirt. I wasn't able to pull over immediately, so after the first retch I had to cup it with one hand and direct it on myself, floorboard. I called dispatch and I cried a little on the way home. One time my wife and I was drinking hard. My wife got sick and ran to the bathroom to puke. I went over to the bathroom and held her hair up, being the nice husband I am. But it was so bad that her puking made me puke and I couldn't control it. I started puking all over her. As a kid I got car sick on the way home from my therapist and threw up into my favorite book. It happened too fast to move the book or close it. Mine is a disabled toilet at 3 a.m. in a petrol station after a night out. I thought it would be safe and to be honest, I made a bit of a mess, opened the door to find a 20-something-year-old dude in a wheelchair, rather pissed off. I didn't stay for his reaction. Finally an askreddit for me. I was 17 and on the college hunt. I had an interview and tour at Columbia scheduled for 8 a.m. on a Friday or Saturday morning I believe. I convinced my parents to let me go into the city the night before and stay with some high school friends. We started drinking early in the afternoon. We drank a lot, all day long. By the time my friend and I got home we were thoroughly drunk. I passed out on the couch and woke up to my 7 a.m. alarm. I don't think I've ever been so hungover in my life. I managed to get out of the apartment, walked down the street and got on the subway. It was fluffing packed. About 2 stations in I start to feel it. The mucus in your mouth, the terrible rising warmth in your throat. I realized I couldn't make the next stop. I looked in my backpack and saw all the nice clothes my mom had just bought me. I love my mom, so I couldn't do that to her. Instead I turned in the packed subway car and vomited all over the man next to me. He was wearing a fluffing beautiful suit. The car was silent and I was dead inside. Luckily the man I vomited on was incredibly nice. He looked at me and said, "Son, get off the train, go find yourself a bathroom, and change your clothes. I'll handle this." So I ran off the train, changed my clothes, and made it on time to my interview. The rest of the day was fluffing miserable. Burger King parking lot, I had gotten car sick and started yelling at my dad to pull over. Burger King was the next turn so we pulled up and soon as I opened the car door I projectile vomited. The family sitting and eating right inside the window where I was could be visibly seen losing their appetites. In the middle of a Passover Seder at my then boyfriend's grandmother's house. I was asked to read a section and had nothing but pickles, wine, and allergy meds in my stomach to that point. Barfed all over the book, the fine china, the tablecloth, myself, it was a scene. Had to take everything off the table. My BF's uncle gave me a t-shirt to change into, and then we just kind of went back at it. My BF's family was remarkably gracious about the whole ordeal. We've been married 11 years now, smiley face. In a church at a funeral. I was an altar girl or whatever it's called, so I tried to hold back but ended up throwing up in the middle of the church and everybody was freaking out. Fun times. My brother came for a visit and was traveling light. My kid vomited in his only pair of shoes. Oh wow, my time has come. I was a middle schooler. And not a popular one. I woke up one morning, felt kind of off, but didn't want to stay home. So I grabbed a granola bar and caught my bus. On the way there I started feeling worse and worse. We pulled up to the school, and what you don't know, is that my bus had middle school and high school students. We all got dropped off at the same location, the high school campus. The middle school was just past the campus and up some steps. So I had to walk through the campus, about a 5-minute walk. 30 seconds into it I got this whiff of something disgusting, and before I knew it, I was throwing up, but I had to keep walking to school. Could I have stopped for a garbage can? Sure. Did I? Of course not. I walked across campus, pausing to throw up on the ground every so often. A friend saw me and came over to say hi, and quickly walked away when she realized what was going on, got into school, went to the nurse, and my dad picked me up before homeroom even started. In a girl's bed I was hooking up with, I knew her for a while. We were both regulars at the same brewery when I used to live back home, but until then, nothing had happened between us. Anyway, as the night goes on I notice her getting particularly handsy with me. We flirt for a bit and she suggests we move on to another bar. It's at this point that I should mention this girl can drink me under the table. She was a bartender and simply had a way higher tolerance than me. When we left the brewery I was already approaching my comfortable limit and I feel like she was just getting warmed up. So we go to the next place, she orders us a couple drinks and we suck them down and keep flirting. At this point I feel obligated to keep going because I hadn't been laid in a while and she was making it pretty clear that this is where things were going. Shots ensue, which was probably the straw that broke the camel's back. I am officially no longer feeling good. But I soldiered on, because the butt was fat. Neither of us is capable of driving and she only lived like 2 blocks away, so we stumble to her place. We get maybe 2 steps in the door and start making out. Slowly make our way to her room and clothes start coming off. At this point, my body is in complete conflict. My song is like, oh yeah, let's do this, and my stomach is like, hey now, you just put way more alcohol than normal in here. As we are making our way into bed I mention that I'm not feeling so good. Which fell on deaf ears, no change of pace. Then I asked where the bathroom was. Again, no response. She either didn't hear me or was too drunk to care. Before I could really even process what was going on I just felt that terrible sensation of warm liquid rushing up your throat. I push her aside, lunge to the left, and proceed to violently throw up on part of her bed, but mostly her floor. Luckily, she was incredibly cool about it. At the time, I was mortified and just would not stop apologizing. She wouldn't have any of it and said she felt bad about making me drink so much. I cleaned her floor while she changed the sheets. I took a shower, partly to just feel clean again but also to process my shame and plot an elegant way to leave. I get out of the shower and to my surprise she asks me to spend the night. No happy fun time was had that night, as I had quite thoroughly killed the mood. But happy fun time was had in the morning and we ended up hanging out for a while after that. Not really dating, but we definitely had a thing. I ended up moving away for work, so nothing ever transpired relationship-wise. But I still see her pretty much every time I am back home. Sweet girl.